Okay, here's my first burn on my rocket stove J-tube that I'm working on. Getting a little bit of smoke coming off the sticks there, but you can see just a few little pine sticks, and they've only been in there for about 5 minutes, and we're running about 375 degrees with the thermometer just kind of hanging over the edge there. And it's pretty warm coming out of there. I can get a shot down below there. Like I say, I had a little bigger fire going earlier where I really had a flame coming up through there. But if we take a look with the laser, you can tell the bricks aren't that hot because it's only been going for just a few minutes here, but we're running about 217 degrees on the outside. I take a reading on the inside. Shine a little bit of light on the subject. It's about 417 degrees right there on the inside. And again, that's with just a few sticks of pine wood burning. And it manages to suck all the smoke in, but it's backdrafting a little bit. You can see the smoke rolling off there, so I'm looking for a better draft than that. So maybe I'm going to go and get a few more fire bricks and increase the length of my chimney. Earlier, one of the mistakes I made was I didn't get my burn tube there was only half that size, so I had to add another brick in there so that it was the same size all the way through, and it was really smoking before I did that. But yeah, it's smoking quite a bit now. I mean, hopefully I'm going to get more vacuum than that when I've got it hooked up to a chimney and getting the heat pump effect off the barrel that's going to go on the top of it. So we'll see. I wanted to experiment with it like this outside before I put it together and make sure I get this J-tube in a configuration that's going to work. Thanks for watching. Thanks for the advice, Ernie and Erica. Alright, here's a shot of my Franklin fireplace consuming huge amounts of wood. I was just burning up some boxes for the brick that I used, the fire brick that I used for the J-tube construction on my rocket mass heater. So I close that up and get over to the rocket mass heater. So I've come up with a design that I liked after a few test runs outside. Put it together with slip, and I'm going to insulate that with some of that ceramic insulation and some vermiculite down on the bottom, so we make sure we get all the heat out the top. You can see that I've got it shimmed up so that I can hang the barrel right at the 2-inch mark. I know a lot of people have had trouble with their rocket stoves and they didn't have it set at the right height, and so this way I can hang this thing right at the height that I want it, and then I'm going to start working on the brick underneath and the cob. So that's how I went about making sure that that gets set at the right height. Anyway, another thing that I did was I started out on this block because I wanted to make sure that I had that burn chamber, you know, up there close to the 18-inch level. I'm a little low, but in case I get any volatile fumes on the floor, I wanted to make sure this thing was up high enough so it gave me a chance not to blow everything up if there's a gas spill in the shop, something like that, since it's an open flame. Same thing you'd do if you're setting a furnace in the shop or a water heater, anything that's got a flame down low like that should be up at least 18 inches. Probably find some videos on YouTube that demonstrate the safety of doing that. So anyway, the question I've got is, having it up that high, is the heat pump action of the barrel going to be able to push enough heat down through, draft down through the heat tubes if I put them on the floor, or am I going to have to lift those heat tubes up to the, like the bottom of the burn barrel height? So I guess we'll find out, and if anybody sees the video before I get the cobbing done and can chime in on that, I'd appreciate it. Thanks. Alright, here's some brick laid up. I got the barrel hanging there at the right height. About to start putting some insulation around the J-tube and the burn chamber. That brick should hold that in there, and then we'll start cobbing. So anyway, that's the project so far. I'll give you some shots as we go along. Alright, so here's as far as I got on my rocket stove, and of course we got the goat kids in the background harmonizing. The old farmer that lives next door said they call them goat kids because they go ma, ma. Anyway, shot of the thermometer in the shop here. You can see it's running about 60 degrees Fahrenheit. So that's pretty good. Happy with that. It's about 10 degrees with a northwest wind outside right now, and this shop it's got fiberglass batt insulation in the walls with a double vapor barrier, and 3 giant doors, 2 on one end, 1 right behind the rocket stove here, and then of course the big overhead door on the other end, and then another big sliding door here. Those aren't insulated very well, but the roof has got 2.5 inches of closed cell foam insulation, and I run a fan up there to blow some of the heat down off the roof when I'm running this. This shop also has an overhead radiant propane heater, which works really nice, but it's kind of expensive to run, especially when we're doing body work and the exhaust fans are on. So anyway, back to the stove. This is as far as I got before everything froze up. The dirt froze up in the back of my truck, the sand and the clay that I was using for cob. But this rocket mass heater is built out of cob, old foundation pieces. It's up on some cement block. You can see the outline on the bottom there, and then field stone that we picked up out of the field, and just kind of generally made a workbench with a 6-inch smoke tube that comes down about 7 feet, loops around and heads back. Move some of those papers out of the way and take some shots of the bench. It's got a field stones for a cap on this bench, and you can see where the papers were. It's running a little bit hotter than where they weren't, even though we're moving back towards the rocket stove itself. And so this cob is still curing, and of course as we get closer to the barrel it heats up. Some temperatures, so you can kind of see, if you follow the laser light, we get down close to where the smoke tube runs, and it's over 100 degrees. You can see it's running about 80 along the bottom where these big cement blocks are. Those are packed full of cob. And even the floor is warmer next to this thing, even though I did have to pick it up 18 inches off the floor for safety reasons in case there's a spill or some fumes here. But you can see as we move away from the bench, the temperature of the floor kind of starts to fall. So, and then the barrel itself, it's running about 470 degrees. The fire was out. I just got back. I just put a few pieces of oak in there. We'll open it up and take a look at them. Right now I'm running this thing kind of like a batch heater. So you can see I've got it covered up with a little air hole so it can breathe. That's because I'm going to be leaving after I shoot this video, and I kind of like to close it up when I'm gone. But I can put that third brick on there and shut the air off just about completely and have an all-night burn. You know, there's some coals in there to start things in the morning when I come back, although the barrel temperature drops down. So anyway, we can get a shot of the firebox here burning, and you can see, like I said, I'm kind of running it like a batch box. This oak could have been a little bit drier, but in about 3 or 4 more minutes here, I suspect we'll be up over 500 degrees on the top of that barrel. When I'm around again, I usually tend to stand the wood upright in this thing and burn it the way that it's made to be burned, but for now it's holding its own this way. So I got to work on another door for that, but for now I'm just putting some fire brick in there. So anyway, I'll have to finish plastering this in the spring because it's time to get back to work in the shop. This thing's up and running and functional. It's keeping the shop from freezing up overnight. Used to be if you shut off the propane heater and it was 5 or 10 degrees outside, you'd come into a 20-degree shop in the morning. Either that or I'd have to run out and fire the wood stove at midnight, 3 in the morning, 10 o'clock. I can wrap up, have a final fire here about 7 o'clock at night, and come back to a bench that's 70 degrees in the morning that's keeping the shop, right around 40 degrees. And heck, I'm good with that, just so things don't freeze up. We've got water out here and paint, and we don't want things freezing up. So if it keeps the propane off in those kind of temperatures, I'm happy. And like I say, this shop is not insulated well due to the large doors and the air gaps on the end. So when we get some wind, it's hard to keep this place warm. But I would say this rocket stove is performing as advertised. A little bit about the chimney. When I hooked that up, the draft increased by about 25%. And that goes out the roof in the old wood burning chimney. It's a 6-inch system all the way through, and that chimney really made a difference. It got rid of any little wisps of smoke that I had coming out of that thing. It really draws good now. It really lights good, and I appreciate the comments, people answering their comments online about their rocket stoves. So I was confident that if I had a good chimney, I could probably get away with a lot here. And you can see my cob it's still drying. I just finished this thing last night, and like I say, I've been burning it on and off since about 11 o'clock today. It's 7 o'clock now, so I've probably had about 5 good fires through it where I got it up over 600 degrees on the barrel temperature. And all around back, I got a template on there while I was laying cob, but I'm gonna work up a piece of sheet metal and a little cowl here so that I can hook the blower off that Franklin stove up to the barrel and get a little bit of forced air for quicker heat in the mornings when we come out, so I don't have to turn the propane heater on for heat. Right now, it takes that stove about 2 hours to get this place back up to 60 degrees if I start at 40, which is pretty standard for just a radiant heater. But I think when I get some forced air on it, we can bring the temperature up a little bit. So right now, looks like it's running about 450 degrees Fahrenheit, which is pretty mild for this stove. When you load it up, it really takes off. 600 degrees is pretty common. 650, 700 degrees if you're really pushing it. And I'm happy with the deal. I think I'll just get some black paint on that barrel because it's pretty ugly. It was an old sandblasting barrel I had, so there wasn't much left of the paint that was on it. I didn't get any fumes from that at all, even at the high temperatures. So, performing as advertised. Oh, I'll also take some temperatures of the chimney for you too. See if I can get the laser on there. So here's the chimney temperature right now is 206 degrees Fahrenheit right at the barrel. And as we work our way up, you can see the temperature is dropping. I ran out of stovepipe and I had to put a piece of galvanized pipe in, but right up there at the top, we got about 100 degree exit temperature. It's just not focusing on that very well. About 95 degrees up there where it's going out. So that's my rocket stove. That's my build. Thanks everybody for sharing your videos and information. It made this one a success, and hopefully I get many years of use out of it. One last shot of this rocket stove running, just so you can see that it, you know, can rocket and run the way it was designed. I've got some cottonwood in there now. It's kind of roaring away. This is my first load this morning. I came out, the bench was about 73 degrees, and you can see, as promised, running about 650 degrees on the side of the barrel now. I mean, if you guys have ever run an old-fashioned barrel stove, you know that's really cooking, and this whole barrel is steaming hot like that. So I'm really getting the BTUs that I need in a shop that could be insulated better. Also, you can't see it in the video, but I also do have a few pieces of oak stuffed back in the fire tube. And this is just to show you that if you've got a good chimney and a good draw, you know, you can plug up that fire tube a little. I like to put a little extra fuel in there in the morning when I come out. It's 42 degrees this morning when I got out to the shop. I shut the thing down after the video last night at about 7:30 or 8 o'clock at night. So I just wanted you guys to see that these things, this one does work. It doesn't smoke, even with cottonwood in there, which is kind of a light wood. One thing I do have to say is I didn't read the book on mass rocket heaters until after I finished this, and so I'm just going to do a plug for the book Mass Rocket Heaters by Anto Evans and Leslie Jackson. This thing is a wealth of information. I can see that I had some mistakes in this one, namely in the manifold that goes from the barrel to the bench here. And so mine's pretty small. I do have a clean out right there, so it'll be easy to clean. But that is a restrictive area that a lot of people who have smoke back troubles didn't make that big enough. And mine was only 6 inches, but because I've got this tall stack on here, it's working fine. So piece of advice for folks out there that might have a heater you've built already, you're getting a little bit of smoke back on it, make a taller stack. In all my years of burning wood, whenever there's a smoke back trouble, it's always a problem where the stack isn't high enough, you know, and try and keep it straight. And you know, if you put it close to the barrel, it's going to get some heat off that barrel to help it get going in the morning. I don't have any trouble starting this one. It's always got a good draft on it. So maybe later on, there's a few other people down here in southeast Minnesota that are building these. In fact, my neighbor borrowed me the book, and we'll try and get videos of some of them. I've even heard that there's a guy down here that built one that's drying corn with it. So we'll try and get his permission to get a video of his and post it online too. So there's about 3 or 4 other builds that are going on within 10 miles of me here, and I'll try and get videos of some of those in progress too, so that folks can see how these things work in case you want to build one yourself. Thanks.